My name is Jay Wilson. I'm the game director at Diablo 3, and we're here at Gamescom talking about mostly Diablo 3. Typically, the way Diablo has worked is once you complete normal difficulty, you unlock Nightmare difficulty, and you can replay the game at that level, and get more items, and fight higher end monsters, and get more challenges. Then you unlock Hell difficulty, which is similarly more challenging, better items, scarier monsters. One of the things we wanted to do was really create an environment for the player at the end of the game. So what we've decided to do is add a fourth difficulty, we call Inferno. And in Inferno difficulty is essentially all max level difficulty. The player max level is 60. All the content in Inferno is minimum level 61. So the player can never out-level the content. There's a problem that occurred in Diablo 2 where once you got past about the mid-80s, none of the monsters kept up with you, and you essentially out-leveled them. Items became meaningless, and power became meaningless because you just didn't need it to fight what you're fighting. What we wanted to make sure was that there was essentially a playground that spanned the entire game content that allowed the player to have challenges through all that content and be able to play and continue to be challenged and continue to do the treasure hunt in a way that was really compelling and challenging. Most of what we're talking about are things related to in-game. We are talking about the details about how runes work, and essentially the way they work is only the first couple of levels unlock in normal difficulty, and then with each new difficulty, new levels unlock. We also make monsters more aggressive and change a lot of their attributes. We give them some additional powers for some of the randomly generated bosses. And we have a whole new tiers of items. In Diablo 2, when you go to higher difficulties, the items improved in quality, but they just reused the art from the first difficulty. In Diablo 3, every difficulty has new art that gets introduced for the items. So there's new armor, new weapons, new unique items, and then set items, which really only fully unlock kind of towards the end of the game. So the way we look at the auction house, the reaction is more or less what we expected. And it was about 2/3 positive, which is actually about best case. Like we were like, oh, we didn't really expect more than that. And then a third that were either optimistic or cautious to negative. A lot of the third that was more negative, from our observation, just didn't quite understand the feature. They either thought we were selling items directly to people, or they looked at Diablo and said, well, this is, this will ruin they looked at Diablo almost more like a game like World of Warcraft and said, well, this will ruin it because everybody can buy their way to the top or trade their way to the top. And really, if you look at Diablo 2 and the original Diablo, there was no difference. People bought items in Diablo 2, they just didn't buy them through a service that we provided. They also traded items, and that was fully supported because the core of Diablo is a trading game. The idea being that the best items you're going to get are going to come through trading. So we looked at what people were doing in Diablo 2, and we looked at the fact that the community already went online and bought items. So we said, well, if this is what players want to do, rather than having them go to these kind of third-party websites and risk, account fraud and theft and those types of things, and not getting their item, and not for generally getting ripped off. We said, well, why don't we provide a service to them that they obviously already want? So yeah, I think some people either misunderstood or just flat out don't want real money to be involved in the game at all. My general response to them is, if they didn't think real money was involved in Diablo 2, they were fooling themselves, because it absolutely was. And it didn't ruin that game, so we don't believe it'll ruin Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is, like I said, we're working really hard to get it done. We're going to have the beta out very soon, and the actual release date is still to be decided. So
subscribe now and like. Subscribe now and like.